Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're journeying back in time to the West African coast, to the heart of what is now modern-day Ghana. We're going to explore a century of conflict, a clash of empires that shaped the destiny of a nation, the Anglo-Asante Wars. This isn't just a story of battles. It's a saga of power, culture, pride, and resistance against the tide of colonial expansion. So, buckle up as we uncover the epic history of the powerful Asante Empire and its struggle against the might of the British Empire. Before we dive into the wars, let's set the stage. By the early 19th century, the Asante Empire, also known as the Ashanti, was the dominant power in the region. Centered around its capital, Kumasi, the empire was a sophisticated and highly organized state. Its wealth was built on gold and trade, and its military was one of the most formidable in Africa. The spiritual and political heart of the Asante people was the golden stool, a sacred object believed to have descended from the heavens, embodying the very soul of the Asante nation. To lose the golden stool was to lose their identity, their spirit. Meanwhile, the British had established a presence on the Gold Coast, primarily for trade. They operated from coastal forts, initially focused on the gold and slave trades. As the 19th century progressed and the British abolished the slave trade, their interests shifted towards protecting their trade routes and expanding their influence inland. This creeping expansion put them on a direct collision course with the Asante, who controlled the interior and the flow of goods to the coast. The stage was set for a major conflict. The first shots were fired in the 1820s. The tension had been building for years. The British were allied with coastal peoples like the Fante, who were traditional rivals of the Asante. In 1824, the Asante army moved south to assert its authority. The British governor, Sir Charles McCarthy, grossly underestimated the Asante forces. Believing he could easily defeat them, he led a small force to confront the Asante army. The result was a disaster for the British. At the Battle of Nsamanko, McCarthy's force was overwhelmed. He was killed, and in a symbolic act of defiance and power, his skull was taken back to Kumasi and reportedly used as a royal drinking cup. This stunning victory sent shockwaves through the British establishment and announced the Asante as a force to be reckoned with. Despite this early victory, the war continued. 2 years later, in 1826, the British and their Fante allies managed to secure a significant victory at the Battle of Dodowa. Using new Congreve rockets, they were able to halt the Asante advance towards the coast. This battle led to a period of uneasy peace, formalized by a treaty in 1831. For over 30 years, an awkward truce held. The British remained on the coast, and the Asante controlled the interior. Trade continued, but the underlying tensions never truly went away. The British still wanted more control, and the Asante were determined to maintain their sovereignty. The peace was shattered in 1863, sparking the Second Anglo-Asante War. The trigger was a dispute over a fugitive who had fled Asante territory and sought refuge in the British protectorate. The Asante king, the Asante Hene, demanded his return. The British governor refused. In response, an Asante army crossed the Pra River into British protected territory. This campaign was more of a raid than a full-scale invasion, but it demonstrated that the Asante military was still a potent force. The British forces, plagued by disease in the dense forest terrain, struggled to mount an effective counterattack. The war ended in a stalemate, but it left the British feeling humiliated and resolved to deal with the Asante problem once and for all. This resolution led to the most famous of the conflicts, the Third Anglo-Asante War of 1873-1874, also known as the Segrenti War. This time, the British were not taking any chances. They sent a highly organized and well-equipped expeditionary force under the command of a renowned general, Sir Garnet Wolseley. His name even gave rise to the English phrase, "all Sir Garnet," meaning everything is in perfect order. Wolseley's force was a marvel of modern military logistics. They built roads, set up supply depots, and used advanced weaponry like the new breech-loading Martini Henry rifle. The British objective was clear: march to the capital, Kumasi, and burn it to the ground. After several fierce engagements, including the Battle of Amoaful, the British forces broke through the Asante defenses. The Asante warriors fought with incredible bravery. but they were ultimately outmatched by superior firepower. In February 1874, Wolseley's troops entered Kumasi. The Asante had already fled. The British soldiers were stunned by the city's scale and sophistication, noting its wide streets and well-built houses. After looting the royal palace of its treasures, including priceless gold artifacts, they planted explosives and destroyed much of the city. The Treaty of Fomena was signed, forcing the Asante to pay a massive indemnity and renounce their claims over their southern territories. The Asante Empire was humbled but not broken. For the next 2 decades, the Asante worked to rebuild their power and resist British encroachment. But the scramble for Africa was in full swing, and Britain was determined to formalize its control. In 1896, concerned about French and German ambitions in the region, the British launched another expedition to Kumasi. This time, they met no military resistance. They marched into the capital and demanded the submission of the Asante Prempeh Fur. To avoid further bloodshed for his people, Prempeh the Runner, along with his mother, the Queen Mother, and other senior chiefs, surrendered. They were arrested and exiled, first to Sierra Leone and later to the Seychelles Islands. The British then formally declared the Asante territory a protectorate. They thought they had finally broken the spirit of the Asante. They were wrong. The final and perhaps most symbolic act of defiance came in 1900. It's known as the War of the Golden Stool. The new British governor, Sir Frederick Hodgson, made a colossal cultural blunder. He demanded that the Asante hand over the Golden Stool, believing that if he could sit on it, he would command the same power as the Asante. He had no idea what he was asking for. To the Asante, this was the ultimate insult, a sacrilege beyond comprehension. They would rather die than allow a foreigner to desecrate their most sacred symbol. The call to arms was led by an extraordinary woman, Ya Asantewa, the Queen Mother of Ejisu. With the king in exile, she rallied the remaining chiefs. In a now famous speech, she declared that if the men would not fight, then the women would. Inspired by her courage, the Asante rose up in a final, desperate war of resistance. They laid siege to the British fort in Kumasi, trapping the governor and his troops inside for months. It was a brutal and hard-fought conflict. The British eventually sent a massive relief force to break the siege and crush the rebellion. Ya Asantewa was captured and also sent into exile. In 1901, the British officially annexed the Asante Empire, incorporating it into the Gold Coast colony. The wars were over. The Asante had lost their political independence, but they never lost their identity. The spirit of the Golden Stool, which was successfully hidden from the British throughout the entire war, remained. In the 1920s, the British, realizing their past mistakes, allowed Prempeh the Furs to return from exile, and the Asante Confederacy was eventually restored, albeit under British oversight. The story of the Anglo-Asante Wars is a powerful testament to the resilience of a people fighting to defend their culture, their sovereignty, and their very soul against the overwhelming force of a global empire. It's a history that continues to inspire pride and is a crucial chapter in the story of modern Ghana. Thank you so much for joining me on this historical journey today. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next exploration into the past. Let me know in the comments what other historical conflicts you'd like to see covered. Until next time, stay curious.